Hi guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I will be doing another recent reads, and as usual I have a lot of different genres to go over, and a majority of my reads have just been middle of the road. They have just been fine, nothing spectacular. I do have one DNF and I actually don't have any 5-star reads to talk about. So as per usual, I will start with my lowest rated and work my way all the way up to my highest rated. So we will go ahead and get started. So the first book that I want to talk about is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Delila Harris. And this is supposed to be a adult mystery thriller novel. I thought it was more on the mystery side, but this is following our main character by the name of Nella, who is an assistant at this publishing house. We find out at the very beginning of the story that she is one of the only Black girls at this publishing house, and she is quite tired of being one of the only Black girls, and she is really wanting someone else to work there with her so that she can essentially have like an ally, because she has been dealing with a lot of, I guess, what you would call microaggressions at the office. And so one day she gets exactly what she asked for, and this girl by the name of Hazel, who is another Black girl, is hired at the office. I would say maybe a few weeks after Hazel has been hired, Nella ends up getting this random note one day at her desk telling her that she needs to leave the company as soon as possible, and she doesn't know why, she doesn't know who it came from, and the story essentially takes off from there. I DNF this one. I first will say that I did not think that this story was thrilling. Like I said, I thought it was more on the mystery side. I also thought that this story was very slow and at times boring. Nothing was happening at all during a lot of this that I got through. And I want to say I got at least about, I know, at least over 100 pages into this. I did listen to this on audio, but I know it was well over 100 pages before I decided that I needed to DNF this. As far as like the character of Nella goes, I was not a fan of her. I did not understand her character at all, because from my understanding, she was tired of being the only Black girl at this office. She was tired of how she was basically treated at the office. And so when Hazel was hired, I just felt like she was very judgmental of Hazel. She wasn't very accepting of her. And at times it seemed like, in my opinion, she came off as jealous of Hazel. For you to have wanted like an ally in the office with you, you kind of didn't act like it. So I just did not understand Nella at all. And another thing that I just did not like about this book is how it was marketed as another Get Out. And I've said this before on my channel with something else that I read, and I don't like how things are compared to Get Out, because it's so hard to have another Get Out. And with Get Out, everything I felt like was so subtle, and you had to like question exactly what was going on in that, and it really had people thinking and rewatching and trying to go back and catch everything. But with as far as I got in this one, it was very clear with what was happening with Nella and what was going on with her in the office, that you didn't have to try that hard with what was going on with her and the things that people were saying to her and the meanings behind what they were saying. So I just didn't understand the whole Get Out comparison. I did end up looking up the ending of this because I did not see a lot of good reviews for this book, and I ended up picking it up anyways. One, because I already owned it and I just wanted to give it a try just to see what I thought, but I wanted to know what exactly happened at the end, because the ending is what determined a lot of people's like final ratings for this book. And so I looked up what actually happened, and I was not a fan of the ending of this. And the ending of this actually reminded me of another movie, but that's neither here nor there. But I was not a fan of it. And after reading what actually happened at the end, I could see how this book was leading in that direction just by some of the things that was being said in the beginning. So, I mean, it's kind of clear that that was where this was going. And then I did not like the flashback scenes in this. They just kind of seemed a little random. And then we had like this other perspective at a certain point that just seemed off and I didn't understand. So as you can tell, I just didn't like this. So again, I DNF'd it. I'm actually not sad about it. So then the next thing that I picked up was actually Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. And this is a collection of short stories. And I only read one short story out of here, which is the 11th Metal. And that particular short story is a part of Mistborn Era 1, that trilogy. And I read that trilogy, I completed that trilogy last year, and I wanted to go ahead and get that short story out of the way because I have started on Mistborn Era 2, so I wanted to make sure that I had read everything that had to do with Mistborn Era 1 before I jumped into Mistborn Era 2. So the 11th Metal is following one of our main characters from the first book in that first trilogy, which is the Final Empire, and that character is Hillier. And he is essentially training to be a Mistborn. And if you don't know anything about the Mistborn trilogy, in a nutshell, in that trilogy with the magic system, it revolves around metals. And if you are a Mistborn, that means you have the ability to manipulate all the metals instead of just one metal. So if you are a Misting, you can manipulate one metal. If you're a Mistborn, you can manipulate all metals. And Hillier is a Mistborn. So he is in the process of training to become a Mistborn. And so that's very important because, well, I wouldn't say it's very important. It's interesting because in that first book, we see Hillier training other people that are Mistborns, and to see him training as a Mistborn is really interesting. So I ended up rating this one 3 stars. It wasn't anything that blew me out of the water. It was just nice to be back in that world because I really enjoyed that trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, and I really did enjoy the character of Hillier. So just being back in that world, being with Hillier, seeing him training, I really enjoyed it. So I just gave it 3 stars. So immediately after reading the 11th Metal, I started the first book in Mistborn Era 2, and that is The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. Both of these are adult fantasies. And so Mistborn Era 2, this starts 300 years after the events of the first trilogy. And in this one, we are following our 2 main characters who are Wax and Wayne, and they are lawmakers. And specifically with Wax, he is a former lawmaker, and he is trying to basically go back to his noble house and kind of reestablish like the family name after something tragic happens to him. And so he is trying to kind of leave his former work in the past. But then something happens where he ends up joining forces with his partner Wayne again, and they kind of have to solve this mystery with with this person that they used to work with in the past. And that's kind of like where the story takes off. We get some expansion on the world, obviously, because it's 300 years later. So this is more like, I would say, like a Western. So we have like the introduction of like skyscrapers, they're using guns. We have like the introduction of like cars and electricity. There is some expansion on their magic system. So like I said before, when I brought up the term like Mistborn, there's some expansion on that and what they can do, which I thought was really interesting. But overall, I ended up giving this one 3 stars because this is just so different than that first series. It's supposed to be a more like lighthearted and fun series compared to that first trilogy, and I knew that going in, and so I was prepared for that, but it's still just so different that this is like one of those that I think it'll have to like grow on me. These characters will have to grow on me. It took me a little while to get pulled into the story. I almost DNF'd this one as well. I'm not gonna lie. I just wasn't vibing with it. Now, when it started off, like this prologue was a little dark. I was like, I thought this was supposed to be light and fluffy and funny. The prologue was a little dark. And then after that, you started to kind of jump into like the lightheartedness of the story. But if you don't know that this is supposed to be like a lighthearted, funny story, then that prologue will kind of fool you into what you think you're going to get. But overall, I thought this was fine. Once I did get into the story and how it ended, I do want to stick with it and see what's going to happen with the next one. The characters kind of did, towards the end, grow on me. Now, Wayne is supposed to be like the comedic relief of the story. A lot of people don't like Wayne. I thought he was fine. He didn't really bother me. I think when we got a little bit of his backstory and kind of why he is the way that he is, he kind of started to grow on me a little bit. But his humor sometimes is a little bit annoying because it comes to me at the wrong time, like right in the middle of when they're fighting or when they're trying to accomplish something is when he's trying to be funny. And it's like, dude, can we try not to get killed right now? And you're worrying about a hat. Like, can we focus on the task at hand, please? To me, he would annoy the heck out of me. I don't know how Wax deals with him, but I mean, I think once you get into the story, it's fine. It's the getting into it that is the problem, or at least that's the problem that I had. But again, I gave it a 3 stars. I thought it was fine, but I am looking forward to getting into the next one. Then the next one that we have is Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier, and this is an adult mystery. And this is my first Jennifer Hillier. She has a lot of books out, and I think she's more on the popular side. I do have another book by her that I haven't gotten to yet that I think is called Little Secrets, but I started with this one, obviously. And so this one follows our main character by the name of Paris. And Paris is married to this comedian who is like 30 years older than her. And one night she has come home from a trip earlier than expected, and she walks into the bathroom and finds out that her husband is dead in the tub. She is then discovered in the bathroom with the razor that is suspected to have killed him. And so she, of course, is then blamed for her husband's murder. We then find out that Paris might not be exactly who she says she is, and this story is told a lot in like flashback scenes where we learn a lot of Paris's former life and how that might be connected to her life now. And again, this is one of the ones that I ended up giving 3 stars. This, like I said, it's told a lot in flashback scenes. And this is one of those stories where I was way more interested in the flashback scenes than I was in what was happening currently. And there were times where I felt like we spent so much time in like the flashback scenes that I almost forgot that there was a current murder investigation going on that we were supposed to be trying to figure out. And that kind of like took away my enjoyment with that because I was so worried about what was with the flashback that I forgot what was going on in the present. With the current murder investigation with Paris, I felt like towards the end of that, it was wrapped up so quickly and so conveniently that I hate when things like that happen. We didn't get to spend a lot of time trying to figure that out and flesh that out because we were so focused on like those flashback scenes. And I wish that we could have spent more time, and maybe we could have had equal time in the flashbacks and equal time in the present if that was just done like a little bit better. This book, I think too, might be triggering for some because it deals with a lot of heavy topics, and I wasn't prepared for that. Again, with those flashback scenes, I almost forgot that this was supposed to be like this mystery because it was dealing with a lot of like child abuse and sexual assault and rape, and it was just dealing with a lot of heavy topics, and it was really emotional and heart-wrenching. And I also just wish that with some of the characters in here that we could have spent more time with some of them and seen some of their relationships develop a little bit more, because with how some of the events of the story played out, I felt like they would have had more of an emotional impact if we could have seen those relationships develop more over the course of the story. So I enjoyed it for what it was. I just thought, the ending of this was wrapped up too fast and too conveniently, but I am interested to pick up more from this author. So then the next one that I picked up is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. And this one is an adult, I guess, romance, contemporary fiction novel. This one follows our main character by the name of Faye, and we learn at the very beginning of this story that she is dealing with the death of her husband, and it has been 5 years since he has died from a tragic car accident, and she is trying to finally get back into the dating scene and see if she can essentially find love again, because she has been dealing with this grief for 5 years. And she ends up kind of sort of dating this guy by the name of Nasir. One day he ends up inviting her back to his home because he finds out that she is an artist and there is going to be a showcase, and he invites her so that she can participate in the showcase. While she is at his home, she ends up becoming attracted to his father. So we follow her as she is trying to figure out whether she is actually having feelings for the guy Nasir or his father, while she is trying to deal with the grief of her dead husband. So I, again, rated this one a 3 stars. This is one of those books that have been going around BookTube, Instagram, everywhere, where everyone has really been enjoying this one. And I just thought it was fine. I thought it was very entertaining. This is definitely one of those books that when you start it, you're not going to want to put it down. It's very fast paced. But one of my main problems that I had with this one was that I guess I'm kind of over the whole situation of people like making not so great decisions because of grief. And I'm not sure how I really feel about that, because it's like, how long can we keep using that as an excuse for people to make bad decisions? And I feel like this is, again, one of those examples of someone making a bad decision because they're dealing with quote unquote grief. And her bad decision was trying to get into a relationship with someone's father when you're messing with their son. I was not a fan of that. But in all fairness, I feel like everybody was kind of wrong in this situation. And then with her, I just felt like Faye I'm not sure I would have wanted to even pursue anything with the father, because there was some things that was revealed about him throughout the story that would have made me question whether or not he was just settling for her as well. He was dealing with not only with grief on his end, but there were some other things that was revealed. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. We all need help in this book. And I just don't understand why no one's trying to get it. There was a little bit of talk around like therapy and having, you know, those supportive people in your life where you can go to them and have people like to talk to, you know, when things are like bothering you. But I don't think it was brought up enough. It wasn't a big enough conversation, because yes, those things are true, but whew, we needed to talk about that a little bit more in this story. I did really enjoy her best friend. Her best friend in this story, I believe her name was Joy. She was the only one to me that had any common sense. But also, with that being said, Joy was not perfect either, and she was not making the best decisions either. So, I mean, you can only take her advice with a grain of salt, because how am I going to take advice from somebody who's not making the best decisions themselves in their own situations? So it's kind of like they all making bad decisions, okay? But again, it's a very entertaining story. It has some very, you know, jaw on the ground moments in this story. Again, when you pick it up, I promise you're not going to want to put it down. But overall, I did just give it a 3 stars. And then the next one that I picked up was Not a Happy Family by Shari? I think it's by Shari Lapena. And this is a adult mystery. So this follows this hot mess of a rich family. And so right after Easter dinner, Sheila and Fred, the mother and father of this family, are found murdered. And their children, so we have Catherine, who's the oldest, Jenna, who's the youngest, and Dan, who is the middle child, have become suspects in their parents' murder, because they would get this huge inheritance once their parents died. And so the police think that one of them or all of them have killed their parents in order to get this large sum of money. And so we are just following the police as they are trying to figure out who might have murdered the parents. I ended up rating this one a 4 stars because I thoroughly enjoyed all of the hot mess that was in this book. I will tell you right now, I was not a fan of how this ended, but I sure did enjoy working our way up to the end, because everything that was revealed, all of the the little twists and turns and everything that we find out, and just like seeing these kids squirm, I enjoyed it. Finding out like how much these parents were worth, and just like how evil this father was. I enjoyed this book, okay? The ending, like I said, I did not enjoy it. By the end, it was quite clear on what exactly happened. But like I said, I enjoyed the ride there. I really think I enjoy like seeing how messy rich people and these families can get, and just seeing like how having money can like tear people's families apart. It's crazy. Sometimes I wish that our family was like rich, but this right here, if this is what we gotta go through, is it worth it? I'm not sure. I'm really not. But to me, this was like really really entertaining. Now, I haven't really heard the best things about this author's other stuff, but this one right here, I would tell you guys, was very entertaining, okay? If you just want to see like a messy family, with some messy kids and people trying to backstab each other and throw each other under the bus, this is what you should read. 4 stars. And then the last one I actually just read on my Kindle, and that is The Jade Setter of Janloon by Fonda. And this is a novella from the Greenbone Saga world. And this one is an adult fantasy, and this one is set before the actual events of the Greenbone Saga takes place. And in this one, we are following a Jade Setter apprentice by the name of Pulo, and he works for the actual Jade Setter by the name of Ison. And one day we have Gaunt Ash, I think that's how we pronounce that, I forget. And he comes in and he drops off the Moonblade of Ait Madashi from the Mountain Clan, and it needs to be repaired. And they discover that while it is in the Jade Setter's possession, the Moonblade is stolen. And so both Pulo and Ison are trying to figure out exactly what happened. And in this novella, we are trying to figure out who took this Moonblade and how are they going to get it back. I enjoyed this one. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. Number one, really was excited to be back in this world. As you guys know, if you have followed me on this channel, I love me some Greenbone Saga. So I had a feeling I was really going to enjoy this one, and I did. So I loved being back in this world. Like I said, it is before the actual events of the Greenbone Saga. So we did get to see some of the characters from both of the Nopi clan and the Mountain clan, and all of them are not in the actual positions that they are when they are in the Greenbone Saga. So that was interesting. It was nice to see, and it was nice to see my babies again. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. But I did like the mystery aspect of this and trying to figure out exactly what was going on. We also got like some more explanation into this world. And it was very fast paced. Again, it was a novella, so it's already going to be short, but it was very fast paced. It was one of those that once you picked it up, you did not want to put it down. I really enjoyed the characters, but the main character of Pulo, he was somewhat annoying and hard-headed and just did not want to listen to the one that was teaching him Ison, which, oh my gosh, it was so frustrating. If he would just have listened in the very beginning, the whole mystery probably could have been solved a little bit faster. But of course, you know, we always have to have that hard-headed character. But as always, I really enjoy Fonda Lee's work. So if you have read the Greenbone Saga and you have not picked that up, I would highly suggest picking up The Jade Setter of Janloon. Again, I rated it 4 stars. So those are all the books that I have read recently. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.